In the 1970s, one TV show changed the way we saw science fiction, technology, and what it meant to be human. The $6 Million Man wasn't just a hit, it became a movement, but behind the slow-motion leaps, bionic sound effects, and unforgettable catchphrases lies a story filled with studio battles, real injuries, and ideas that almost never made it to air. Some of what happened behind the scenes is even stranger than what made it on screen. And fact number 6, it involves a real NASA disaster that was hidden in plain sight. This is the $6 Million Man, 10 shocking secrets you never knew. Let's power up and start scanning. Fact 1.
Please stay in your seats and don't panic.
Before Steve Austin became America's favorite Bionic Man, he came from a much darker place. The series was based on the 1972 novel Cyborg by Martin Caidin. In the book, Steve was a ruthless, emotionally detached agent. He worked covert operations for the government, sometimes crossing ethical lines without hesitation. Caidin's version was closer to a human weapon than a reluctant hero. He was more machine than man, and far less sympathetic than Lee Majors' portrayal. In the book, Austin dealt with heavy trauma, post-surgery nightmares, and deep resentment about losing his limbs. He wasn't smiling or charming, he was angry. When producers adapted it for television, they toned down everything. The network wanted a family-friendly hero, not a sci-fi anti-hero. So they added humor, softened Steve's personality, and turned him into the classic good guy we all remember. But if you read the original novel, it feels like a completely different character. Some of the early TV movie pilots still carried a bit of that edge, but by the weekly series, the transformation was complete. The show kept the premise, but changed the soul. And few fans realize how much darker Steve Austin's origins really were. He started as a government-made assassin, not a superhero. Fact 2. Lee Majors wasn't just playing a tough guy, he was one. Throughout the series, he insisted on doing most of his own stunts. That meant high falls, crashes, and dangerous physical feats were often performed without a double. It gave the show a gritty authenticity, but it came at a cost. Majors suffered numerous injuries while filming, including cracked ribs, sprains, and torn muscles. He later joked that he should have been paid $6 million just for hazard pay. One of the most dangerous stunts involved jumping from a helicopter into water, which he did himself. The slow-motion bionic scenes may have looked graceful, but they were brutal to shoot. Majors had to repeat each move multiple times, wearing hidden harnesses and enduring harsh lighting. During one scene, he bruised his tailbone so badly that he couldn't sit for days. Yet he refused to complain, determined to keep the realism intact. The network was nervous about his safety, but Majors refused to back down. His commitment helped define the tone of the show. Fans believed in Steve Austin because Majors became him. And even today, stunt performers cite his work as an early example of on-screen toughness. His willingness to take risks made the character iconic. And behind the scenes, it earned him the respect of the entire crew. He didn't just play a superhuman, he acted like one. Fact 3. The cha-cha-cha sound that made Steve Austin famous wasn't part of the original plan. In early episodes, and even the pilot, there were no bionic sound effects. Steve would leap over fences and lift cars in total silence. It felt strange and underwhelming to early audiences. It wasn't until feedback started rolling in that producers realized something was missing. They added the now famous bionic sound to highlight his powers. It became so popular that it was instantly associated with slow-motion action. The sound wasn't high-tech at all. It was made using tape manipulation and electric guitars. It was layered, distorted, and slowed down to create a futuristic feel. The moment viewers heard it, they knew Steve was about to do something impossible. Other shows, including The Simpsons and Family Guy,
that I am gonna run like the $6 Million Man,
later parodied it. It became one of the most iconic audio cues in TV history. And by season 2, it was used in nearly every action sequence. That simple sound effect turned Steve Austin's movements into moments of suspense. Producers said it was the cheapest addition with the biggest payoff. Now it's impossible to imagine the show without it. It literally gave Steve Austin his sonic signature, and it made Bionics sound cooler than ever. Fact 4. In the original concept, Steve Austin's enhancements were supposed to be limited. He was meant to have enhanced speed, sight, and hearing, but not strength. The idea was to keep the show grounded in plausible science. But audiences loved the idea of a man who could lift cars and rip off steel doors. Early feedback showed that kids were reenacting strength scenes more than anything else. So halfway through the first season, writers gave Steve super strength. Suddenly, he was flipping vehicles and breaking through walls. The science didn't add up, but nobody cared. It turned Steve into a full-fledged superhero, not just a high-tech spy. Even Lee Majors admitted it made the show more fun to film. Producers stopped worrying about realism and leaned into the fantasy. The show became a mix of science fiction and comic book adventure. And that shift helped it become a massive hit. Steve Austin became the strongest man on TV, even if the original story said otherwise. Episodes started focusing more on strength and strategy, and the fans couldn't get enough. A grounded sci-fi tale evolved into a superhuman saga, all because strength sold toys and boosted ratings. Fact 5. Believe it or not, the word bionic nearly caused a legal mess for the show. When the $6 Million Man became a smash hit, it also made bionic a household term. But a biomedical company that made prosthetic limbs claimed to have prior rights to the word. They had used bionic in marketing materials for real medical technology. As the show exploded in popularity, the company filed a lawsuit over trademark infringement. The producers and network were caught off guard. They thought the word was general enough to use freely. Eventually, a settlement was reached out of court. The details were kept private, but the show was allowed to keep using bionic. This dispute actually helped push bionic further into the cultural spotlight. After the settlement, use of the word in marketing, toys, and media skyrocketed. It even appeared in dictionaries shortly afterward. Today, it's used in everything from tech to fitness gear, but it all traces back to the $6 Million Man. Few fans realized the show didn't just popularize the word, it fought for the right to use it. The lawsuit didn't stop the franchise, but it almost did. Legal battles behind the scenes are rarely as thrilling as on-screen chases, but this one helped define a genre and gave Steve Austin a legacy in both fiction and science. Fact 6. Steve Austin wasn't just any hero, he was an astronaut. And producers wanted the space angle to feel authentic. That's why they quietly reached out to NASA during the show's early development. Engineers provided training videos, mission footage, and even spacecraft blueprints. They wanted the crash sequence to feel grounded in reality. The footage of the test crash at the beginning of each episode, it's real, taken from an actual NASA lifting body crash in the 1960s. The pilot, Bruce Peterson, survived but was badly injured. That footage, though dramatic, was public domain, and it gave the show a dose of realism. NASA even allowed them to use some terminology in suit designs. Scenes involving mission control and rocket launches were modeled after real space operations. Some NASA personnel even visited the set to consult during season 1. The agency never officially endorsed the show, but insiders quietly cheered it on. Steve Austin became one of the few sci-fi characters based in real aerospace culture. And the connection to real history added depth to his fictional powers. The crash wasn't just story, it was a nod to actual aviation risks. Few viewers realize that the show opens with a real-life near-death moment, and it's all thanks to a subtle collaboration with America's space pioneers. Fact 7. We all know about the Bionic Woman, but there was almost a third Bionic series. In 1978, producers filmed a pilot for a spin-off called the Bionic Boy. It's centered around a teenage athlete who gets bionic implants after a near-fatal accident. They hope to appeal to younger viewers and refresh the franchise. The character had super speed, strength, and enhanced reflexes. But despite a full pilot being completed, test audiences didn't connect with it. The show felt like a watered-down version of the original, and some critics called it too childish compared to the tone of $6 Million Man. The networks passed, and the pilot was shelved. For decades, it remained unseen by the public. Eventually, clips surfaced in sci-fi retrospectives and DVD extras. It's now considered a deep cut in Bionic fandom. Fans of the franchise debate whether it could have worked with a better script. But the timing wasn't right, and it quietly faded into TV history. The actor who played the boy left the industry shortly afterward. It's one of the rare examples where the Bionic upgrade didn't take, and a reminder that not all spin-offs are destined for greatness. Even in the world of Bionics, some prototypes fail. Fact 8. Steve Austin and Jaime Summers weren't just Bionic, they were TV's first sci-fi power couple. After the success of The $6 Million Man, Lindsay Wagner was cast as Jaime, Steve's love interest and fellow cyborg. Their chemistry on screen was instant, and audiences couldn't get enough. This led to a spin-off, The Bionic Woman, which ran on a rival network, ABC. Despite being on different networks, the shows featured frequent crossovers. Steve and Jaime shared backstories, enemies, and emotional arcs. They even planned a wedding episode, which was written but never filmed due to scheduling issues. The relationship became one of the first serialized romantic arcs in science fiction TV. Wagner and Majors reprised their roles in several reunion movies years later. Those films explored what happened after the original series ended. In one, they even finally get married, giving fans closure. The crossover episodes consistently pulled in high ratings. Producers said the chemistry between Majors and Wagner was lightning in a bottle. The shows broke new ground by focusing on emotional storytelling, not just action. And it laid the foundation for modern crossover universes in genre TV. Without Steve and Jaime, there might be no Arrowverse or Marvel TV multiverse. It all started with two bionic hearts beating in sync, and fans never forgot it. Fact 9. Steve Austin didn't just rule the airwaves, he dominated toy shelves too. In 1975, Kenner released the $6 Million Man action figure. It was revolutionary for the time, featuring bionic arms, a magnifying bionic eye, and a roll-up arm skin panel. Kids could perform pretend surgery on Steve and activate his strength. The figure came with accessories like mission gear, lab stations, and even a backpack with a grappling hook. One of the best-selling items was the Bionic Transport and Repair Station. The toy line was a smash hit, outselling even some Star Wars figures during its first run. A Bigfoot figure was later released to tie into the show's most famous monster villain. Jaime Summers got her own line of toys shortly after. Together, the Bionic Figures became one of the first shared universe toy franchises. Collectors today pay hundreds, sometimes thousands, for boxed versions in mint condition. The success of the toy line helped cement the show's place in pop culture. It was also one of the first times a TV character had his own playable universe. Kenner used the profits to develop more advanced action figure features. The toys paved the way for innovations in G.I. Joe and Transformers. Without Steve Austin, modern action figures might look very different, and millions of kids felt bionic thanks to him. Fact 10.
Okay, stand by for systems. Okay, Steve. Okay, you got that.
Unlike most shows of its era, The $6 Million Man had no traditional theme song. Instead, it opened with a dramatic narration. "Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology." The voice belonged to actor Richard Anderson, who played Oscar Goldman. That intro wasn't in the original pilot. The first cut had a standard musical score, but test audiences found it underwhelming. Producers then created a cold open with real NASA footage and Anderson's voiceover. The idea was to sell Steve Austin's transformation as something urgent and profound. The gamble worked. The new intro gave the show gravitas and instantly hooked viewers. It became one of the most iconic openings in TV history, often spoofed and never forgotten. It's been referenced in everything from Family Guy to The Office. The line, "We have the technology," became a pop culture catchphrase. The intro made Steve Austin feel more like history than fiction, and it helped ground the show in real-world science and emotion. Music couldn't do that, but one perfect voiceover did. Today, it's ranked among the greatest opening sequences ever created. Sometimes skipping the song is what makes people remember.